Now writing F major on the scale is a little bit more challenging than C major, but not much. You need to remember F major always had B flats in it. So let's look at our four options, or four of the options I should say, for F major. So if we're on a treble clef, and we wanted to start on an F, that would be this space here, and we're going to ascend. Again, you can start on any F, but we'll just start there. So it goes F, G, A. Now I'm going to come back to this in a second. I'm going to put B, C, D, E, and F. Notice that I've just ascended through my notes there, because I know I'm always going to have a note starting on each letter. Now to correct that, I would need to put on this note here, the B, a flat symbol. So I would put a flat in there to remind me that that would be a B flat, and that would be our F major scale. Now a good habit is to just simply write the 8 notes on straight away in either ascending or descending order, then go and put in accidentals if required. There is another way which we'll look at is a key signature of writing these on, and we'll do that in another video. So let's say we're on treble and we have to descend. So I just start on the F here. Remember, every good boy deserves fruit. I could just simply go down my 8 notes until I get to that F there. And there's the B, so that's got to have a flat next to it. And that would be F major descending on the treble. If we're on the bass, and we wanted to ascend, we'd need to start on an F. So there's an F that lives just under the staff here. That's quite an obvious choice. Again, just write your 8 notes on. And that arrives on the F there. Notice I knew ahead of time that that's going to need a little more space because it's got to have a flat next to it. So it's a good habit to just put a little bit of a gap in there. And again, remember, you might have to turn them into crotchets, so I won't go through and do that, but whatever's required. And the other option is, again, if I'm on bass and I've got a descend. Now I'll show you what happens if I go and say, well, I'd start on this F here. Now it's going to end up really messy, but let's do it anyway, just as an exercise. So if I start on that F, I'd need to go down underneath that to an E, and then under that would be a D, and I'm just going to keep going backwards through my notes. Now remember, when you draw them, keep the ledger lines spaced correctly. And you can see I'm going to get further and further down. The more ledger lines, the harder it gets to read. So now I've gone down there to the F, and you can see it's quite awkward. It would have been much simpler if I started on this F, or even I could have gone up and said I'll start on this F up here. All right, so I would suggest avoid doing that. You are correct if you do it, but it's just an example of showing you how awkward it would get. You can see my ledger lines aren't too perfectly spaced compared to the lines. The neater you keep it, the easier it's going to be for someone to read what you're doing. All right, and then don't forget the final thing, you've got to go and put a flat on this B here. Right? If you forget that, it won't sound correct and it won't follow the pattern of tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. I'll also mention this, descending through the scale. So I'll use this example, it's a bit easy to read. That is the first note, and that's the 8th note. So the semitone will be between those two, because that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the semitone will be between those two, which is the 7 and the 8. You've got to remember this is backwards when you're doing that.